A 6-year-old girl in Ice Age France could track a wounded reindeer through frozen forest for 3 miles. Most adults today couldn't survive her childhood for a week.
By the end of this video, you'll discover the brutal education system that created the most capable children in human history, and why a single mistake meant the entire group could starve. But you, my viewer, will always be fed with ancient history painfully explained daily, so long as you hit that subscribe button right now. Good job. Now let's hop back on the time machine.
30,000 years ago, there were no schools, no textbooks, no protective parents hovering nearby. But here's what archaeologists found at sites across Europe: children's handprints next to adult hands on cave walls, child-sized flint tools with practice strike marks, and miniature spear points carved with shocking precision. These weren't toys. They were training equipment for a curriculum where graduation meant staying alive.
Picture this. You're 4 years old in what is now southern France. Ice sheets stretch 200 miles to the north. Your father crouches beside a deer track in the mud. He doesn't explain. He simply points, then watches your eyes. Recent analysis of Ice Age learning patterns reveals children absorbed information differently than modern kids. There was no verbal instruction for most skills. A child watched an adult knap flint for hours, observing the exact angle of the strike, the sound of success versus failure, the way stone fractures when hit precisely. One anthropologist recreating these conditions found that modern children, given the same silent observation method, learned tool-making 40% faster than those given verbal explanations. Why? Because survival skills lived in the body, not in words. But here's where it gets unsettling. What we'd call playing was actually rehearsal for scenarios that determined who lived and who died. Excavations at Paleolithic campsites reveal something disturbing. Miniature versions of every adult tool, tiny scrapers, child-sized atlatls, spear throwers with real stone points. These weren't gifts, they were curriculum. A 7-year-old practiced throwing for 2 hours daily, not at targets, but at moving objects, small birds, rabbits darting between rocks. Because in 5 years, that child would need to hit a running caribou from 40 feet away, while the group watched, hungry, depending on that single throw. Mistakes were expected, yes, but they were studied. An elder would retrieve a missed spear, examine the trajectory, adjust the child's grip by 1 centimeter, then watch them throw 60 more times. Compare this to modern education. We celebrate effort. They celebrated precision. But the most shocking part of Ice Age childhood? The world itself was the final teacher.
Remember, there were no warning labels, no childproofing, no emergency rooms. The environment taught lessons that couldn't be forgotten. Cold taught respect. Children who didn't learn to recognize frostbite warning signs didn't reach adulthood. Their fingers went numb, turned black, became useless. Fire taught care. Evidence from ancient burn patterns on juvenile bones shows children learned fire management young, because a single spark in a hide shelter meant the entire family's winter refuge could vanish in minutes. Animals taught caution. Cave lion territories overlapped with human hunting grounds. Children learned to read tracks, scat, territorial markers. One recent study of Paleolithic child remains found evidence of healed bite wounds, meaning some children survived encounters that should have killed them, learned, and carried that knowledge forward. This wasn't cruelty. This was a world where knowledge lived in scars, in frost-burned fingertips, in the sharp memory of what happens when you ignore warnings. But how did they preserve complex knowledge, hunting routes, seasonal patterns, animal behavior, without writing? At night, while stone tools cooled and fires crackled, stories began. But these weren't entertainment. Recent analysis of oral traditions from modern hunter-gatherer groups, some using methods unchanged for millennia, reveals something profound. Stories were mnemonic devices encoding survival data. A single story about the winter the bison didn't come contained migration timing shifts, alternate food sources, signs to watch for, mistakes previous generations made. One anthropologist documented 47 distinct pieces of survival information embedded in a 12-minute story told by an indigenous elder. Children heard these stories hundreds of times. The rhythm, the repetition, the emotional peaks, all designed to make information unforgettable. A story remembered could mean knowing which plants caused paralysis, which river crossings became impassable in spring, where to find flint when your tools shattered. In a world without Google, without books, without any external storage, human memory was the hard drive that held 300,000 years of beta testing on how to stay alive. But when did a child stop being protected and start being essential?
Here's what's disturbing. There was no graduation ceremony, no clear line between child and adult. Skeletal analysis of Ice Age adolescents shows something remarkable. By age 12, their muscle attachment points were as developed as modern 20-year-olds who do manual labor full-time. By 13, they carried responsibilities we'd consider adult. They tracked game independently, made complex tools, understood weather patterns, read landscapes, knew which routes avoided predator territories. A 14-year-old girl at a campsite in modern-day Czech Republic was buried with sophisticated sewing tools because she'd already spent years mastering the garment making that kept her family from freezing. They weren't protected from reality, they were forged by it. While modern teenagers learned algebra, Ice Age teenagers learned to predict when the reindeer migration would shift based on winter severity, spring thaw timing, and vegetation patterns, then stake the group's survival on that prediction. One wrong calculation meant everyone went hungry for weeks. The pressure was incomprehensible. On No Pressures, but like this video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want more ancient history explained to you this way. But here's what we get wrong about Ice Age childhood. We imagine it was rushed, harsh, childhood cut short. The archaeological evidence shows the opposite. Learning was slow, intentional, precise. A child spent 10 years mastering skills we'd try to teach in 10 weeks. They practiced the same napping technique thousands of times, tracked the same animal species through every season for years. Modern education rushes breadth. Ice Age education demanded depth. They learned fewer things, but learned them so thoroughly that performing them under pressure, in darkness, while exhausted, while being stalked by predators, became automatic. Knowledge wasn't in their heads, it was in their hands, their instincts, their muscle memory. Compare that to modern students who forget 90% of what they learn within months. But here's what still puzzles researchers. How did they teach abstract thinking? without language sophisticated enough to explain it. Recent discoveries of geometric patterns carved by children as young as 8 suggest they understood mathematical concepts, ratios, symmetry, spatial relationships that we don't teach until high school. Some archaeologists believe there was a lost teaching methodology, some form of visual or physical demonstration that could transmit complex abstract knowledge without words. We see the evidence in their work. We just don't know how they taught it.
30,000 years ago, every child was a carrier, not of genes, but of knowledge refined through 10,000 generations of trial and error. What they learned wasn't trivia, it was the concentrated wisdom of every ancestor who survived long enough to pass it on. And when you look at it that way, every child today carries that same responsibility. We've just forgotten what's actually at stake. This is Before Civilization. Ancient History Explained. New videos every day.